Hi, I'm Ross Tayler, your host and guide for Sacred Sundays, a space to slow down, tune in, and return to what's sacred within and around you. I'm also a life coach who supports empaths and sensitive souls, guiding them on the journey back to self-acceptance and inner alignment. My passion is connecting with like-minded souls, and these conversations are part of fulfilling my purpose and serve to deepen our collective exploration of what it means to live in connection with the sacred. Some weeks you'll hear a sound-based offering to open the space, other times we'll simply begin in conversation. However it unfolds, this is an invitation into presence, connection, and the beauty of the unseen. If you enjoy these conversations, please subscribe, rate, and share so others can find their way here. So pour a cup of tea, settle in, and let's begin. Today on Sacred Sundays, our guest is Dominique Ceara. Dominique helps women transform pain into freedom by identifying and shifting inner patterns through breathwork and somatic healing. Rooted in her own lived healing journey, her work guides women back to truth, love, and the felt sense of their wholeness. She supports women in moving beyond coping, because you're not here to cope with life, you're here to create it. Welcome, Dominique. So excited to have you here on Sacred Sundays and to have this conversation with you.
Hi, Ross. Thank you so much for having me. I'm equally excited and really looking forward to our conversation.
Excellent. And I just want to add that this is our first journey into international waters. Dominique is in Switzerland, and this is our first international guest.
I'm so grateful for opening the doors.
Dominique is actually going to begin by guiding us on a short grounding breath exercise. So I'm going to hand it over to Dominique, and she'll guide us from here.
Perfect. Thank you, Ross. All right. Let's all take a moment here. Ideally, you find a space where you're going to be for yourself for the next couple of moments. A space where you are uninterrupted and feel comfortable enough to settle. And when you found this space, I invite you to close your eyes and just really turn your attention inward. Start with focusing on our breath. And we inhale to the count of 4 through our nose. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhaling to the mouth on 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhaling again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling to the mouth. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And again, inhaling to the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, inhaling to the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. And surrendering, exhaling to the mouth on 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 2 more times, inhaling through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling to the mouth. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One last time, inhaling through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhaling, letting all the air out. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep staying with your breath here and just really focusing on the deep inhales through the nose and the exhales through the mouth. And watch how your energy and your attention is focusing inward and how you are relaxing in this moment, starting to feel your body. You don't need to follow this 6-4 pattern or 4-6 pattern, but just really taking your time with inhaling deeply through the nose, exhaling softly and long through the mouth. And while doing this, just focusing on the breath, you will find yourself getting more and more into a state of balance and regulation. Just continue going with the flow. Our breath is the bridge between our mind and body. It's a crucial piece to really help us connect and feel more alive, feel more at home in our own vessel. Just keep your attention with your breath. Slowly, we're getting back into this beautiful conversation we're about to have, always reminding us throughout listening to this episode to come back to our breath, just really focusing on the deep inhales in through our nose and out through our mouths.
Thank you, Dominique. That was that was needed. I didn't realize how much I needed that until we were in it. And I think it's always good to slow down and connect with ourselves. And I really felt that connection down into my root center as we went through that breathing exercise. So thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things I love about breath as a reminder is it's the one thing we have that's always with us as a tool to access. It's like we don't have to reach out for it. We don't have to plan for it. It's always right there. Would you agree?
And that's the beautiful thing, yes, because so many people look outside of themselves for tools to regulate, tools to bring them back to themselves, while it's actually just with us. We just need to turn inward and focus on our breath. And when we do this, even 2 to 3 minutes goes such a long way. And the way I love to do this is to really close my eyes, because when you literally close your eyes, you're pacing the outside world out, and you're able to just really focus on the breath, not just by theory, but by lived example of experiencing it through your own vessels. So the breath is really the one thing we can always come back to, and that helps us shift state in a matter of minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In your bio, it said rooted in your own lived healing journey. And so I'm curious about that. It seems a very important piece of how you teach and how you show up. And so I'd love to hear more about that.
I'd love to. I was always very into psychology throughout all my life, but I would also say I was very disconnected from myself. And only when I got pregnant with my daughter did I really want to change, to adjust, to really continue on my healing journey and making quote unquote real progress. Because I didn't want to pass this on to my daughter. I didn't want her to needing to take care of me. I wanted her to experience life as a small kid and just being fully present, fully enjoying her childhood. And that was really the turning point for me, to look deeper, look into other aspects of how you can work through your trauma. And with this then came breathwork, because one of the things I really wanted for my daughter is to have a trauma-free delivery into the world. So we say that birth is the first big trauma we as humans experience. And I think it very much depends on how you're delivering your kid to the world. Obviously, sometimes the circumstances require different measures, but birth is also the most natural thing. And in Switzerland, we have a very high cesarean rate. And while I would do anything for my kid to be delivered safely, it would have not, or isn't, or wasn't my first option to rely on. I really wanted her to have that natural birth. And that's when I looked into hypnobirthing. And hypnobirthing, for those who haven't stumbled across this, is when you are consciously connecting to your breath and you're working with your baby in a flow of breathing your baby out. That doesn't mean that you don't feel it. Like, you do feel the birth experience, but it's such a beautiful act of seeing how you can be such a great team with your baby. Like, this was so interesting because we were going or moving so in flow. She was here in just a couple of hours. It really was very smooth experience. And I think if you can give your kid an entry like this, then you are settling, or you set the great ground for a nice beginning of a life.
And something just like really just hit me when you were talking of like, oh, this is the first act of co-regulation, right? It's like, this is the way of co-regulating with this being inside of you. And so did that start for you way before the birthing? Like, were you aware of that in that way? Like, I never thought of that. I think about my own experience, and there was definitely no co-regulation intentionally happening with when I was in utero.
Yes and no. I had a lot of trauma I carried with myself. One of the things was bulimia. I don't know if you're familiar. For the audience who may doesn't know it, is when you have an eating disorder where you are throwing up the food you binge eat. And I still had this when I got pregnant. And when I discovered I was pregnant, I knew that I wasn't going to pass this on, because everything, at least from where I come from, I believe that all the emotions a mom or a woman goes through while she's carrying a baby, she just puts on the baby unfiltered. That's how I see it. And I didn't want this ever needed to be a thing for her. So I did a lot of healing work. I did a lot of also, how do you say, like shutting the outside world out and just focusing on the baby growing inside of me. So I was to some degree also not very realistic at this point, because I just didn't let stuff bother me, so that I would, keep the vessel safe, so to say. And when I then gave birth, that changed everything for me. That changed how I saw our breath. Like, never did I breathe like consciously before. And while giving like birth, I really understood the power of breathwork. And that then led me on a whole journey of breathwork in different circumstances. And in the first couple of years, I put my hands on everything I could get on seeking getting all the knowledge, getting all the experiences, to really get to the version of myself where I can look back and be proud of the person I've become, for the sake of having a daughter that can look up to me and doesn't need to be, looking over me, but me to do my job as a mom and to be able to hold the space. And it needed those 9 months of pregnancy, and it also took a little bit longer when I then gave birth to just, figure things out. I would say I'm still figuring things out. We are all on our healing journey, and this is going to continue through life. But I am now able to hold the space for my daughter to grow up safely and hopefully without bigger trauma issues.
Yeah, and really I think in some way that's the goal of most parents, is just to create a better experience than we had. And for you, it sounds like you really did it. And it's interesting listening to you speak, because we talked a little bit about your human design. So I have that kind of in the back of my mind. And for you, it's like you're the type that is going to investigate and learn and dive deep into these topics and learn everything you can. And it sounds like you did that in the name of your healing and also for the support of your daughter coming into the world.
Yeah, she was my biggest motivator. I don't know if I would have gotten my bottom up to really resolve things by the roots if it wasn't for her, because I wasn't coming from a place of having a lot of self-love for myself. I really learned this through her.
That reflection. Yeah. And the experience. I'm curious, you said the person you were becoming. And I'm curious about that because I really have this belief that we already are that person. And it's like we're lifting away all the conditioning that reveals that person. And I'm just wondering what you would say about becoming versus already being.
I actually agree to how you put it. I think that we are, I would even say it's beyond this. I would say that we are everything and nothing. Everything you can imagine yourself being, and the whole, how do you say, the whole span of what you can imagine, you can be. And I also believe that we all carry the best and the worst version of us inside of us. And it's who we pick to want to show and nourish that will eventually come to the surface. And that was just another layer that had to be revealed. And it needed those processes in order for it to be undiscovered and to show up. But I would agree that we carry it all inside of us, because at the end, we are all one. One is in us. We are everything. And at the same, we are nothing. Because it's in its whole, everything is nothing and nothing is everything.
I've done some psilocybin journeys over the years for my healing. And I always say there's like this cosmic joke. It's like we take everything so seriously, but there's this not so serious side of it as well, which is really interesting because we try so hard to be a good human, right? And yet we're so much more than that. And so that's where the joke is.
It's about this, yeah, but it's also to give the dark side of us space. It's one thing I learned over the years is everything you try to shuffle under the rug will eventually control you. So it's like the dark side. The dark side sounds like something that is negative and like you want to avoid it by all costs, but it's actually just as much a part of us as the bright and the light side. And it's about embracing all parts of us, showing and learning to have compassion for us in all our states and finding the right channels to experience our what we call like dark sides. So there is like the dark side is often what we see in creativity, like the chaos, or the like there's so many things that that make you who you are, which goes way beyond our conscious level of understanding. And suppressing, I believe, is not the answer. It's about finding the way to channel yourself and to live who you truly are and staying like authentic to yourself. And this means embracing your favorable sides as much as the ones you may not like so much.
And so it feels like you're very much talking about what is often called shadow work, which is revealing or bringing those parts of ourselves that we've rejected, suppressed, or denied back into the fold, back into our ways of being. And this is, I think it's like, from my journey, it's like the number one thing we can do for ourselves, because quite interestingly, everything in front of us is a reflection. And that reflection is, the way that we point at someone and say, oh, you're this judgment or you're that judgment, is actually a judgment about ourselves. There's something unfinished or unresolved in us that we're trying to work out. And so this is something that I came to years ago, but I'd also came to in the men's work that I do. And we do a lot of shadow work and looking at these relational pieces. And it's the beauty of the design of this world, is that this hall of mirrors that we're walking through. And yet it can be very hard to look in that mirror and see ourselves and realize that we're seeing ourselves when we point that finger. But when we recognize that, the movie changes because we've changed. And that's the wonderful part of it, is we can take responsibility for our side of the street.
I think this is so beautiful. Yes. And everything that bothers us, triggers us in the outside world, is just an invitation to look into and a request for us to heal certain parts.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you brought this up, because it's actually the perfect segue into another part of your human design, which is that you're a reflector. And reflectors represent a unique 1% of the population. And the simple definition of a reflector is that they're here to reflect to us what we just talked about, our shadows. And so reflectors really see through to the truth of whether we're showing up authentically or not. And what I want to say about that is that is a very challenging role to hold, because you move through the world, you feel it intensely, you see the truth intensely. But ultimately, if a reflector is happy, it means the community that they're in, the people that they're surrounded by, are also happy. So it's this really interesting dynamic of really feeling where people are at, which on one level can be a tremendous burden to hold. And I would imagine that as you stepped into this journey with breathwork and your healing journey, that you cleared out a lot of that energy. And now it's your greatest gift to be able to see accurately what is going on for people, and you support them in their healing. You can do that. But the problem is, most people don't want to hear what it is that you see. And that's the challenge. So all of a sudden, and what happens in that transaction is you become the problem, even though you're just trying to help reveal the thing in front of you. So I hope that makes sense. But I wonder what you would say about all of that.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I really feel like I shedded a lot of skins in the last years. I started at a very different point where I lived very much towards the outside world. And with the pregnancy of my daughter then, and the desire to execute this role as a mom to the best of my ability, that was such a huge urge for me, because I think we hold such a great responsibility with this, that I really pushed toward looking into the inconvenient and like into all the things I really didn't want to look into. And it also made me step back from the environment I was in, because my environment was still matching the old versions of myself. And in order to heal, and that's what I tried first, is I tried to take those people with me on the journey. But because of the frequency they were at, it was like more than having a really heavy stone on your foot, in being in water, and it was just, tearing me like down, and I felt like drowning. And there was just a point where I said goodbye to almost everybody in my environment, and I started to walk alone and just build what I felt had to be built. And there were many times I really was questioning if I, did the right thing, because loneliness is also something, or let me put it this way, if you cannot really, or if you have never learned to sit with yourself, then being alone is really uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. And while being on this journey then alone, I was questioning myself if I did the right thing quite a couple of times. And I just pushed through. And after a while, at first you make room for new people, but they don't yet arrive. And then after a while, the right frequencies and the right people were just, I met them on all the different places, and it's so beautifully to now watch back and just see what the last couple of years have brought. And now, with living my true authentic self, the kind of people I meet, it's just like also the two of us, like, it's just so beautiful how, things start to fall into place. But for all the greatness and all the beauty it also asks you to, I think, in order to appreciate it, to see the other sides, see the loneliness, so you can appreciate, how it is being around the right kind of people.
It's a tremendous ask to be on that journey. And I know there's so many people that I talk to that the more they step into their authenticity, the more people in their circle fall away. And sometimes they don't even notice what's going on, but really it's that they've changed. And there's like this energetic piece that, like, if the people stay, there becomes more friction because they want you to be someone else than who you're becoming. Or there's that word again, becoming, but they want you to be someone else. They want you to be who you were, so that they can still have the same relationship with you. So if you change, it can't stay the same. And that's a tremendous, I mean, we're all wired for attachment. We're all wired for connection. And if we're going to push away the connection that's there, I mean, I think about addicts when I've worked in treatment centers. They're going back to communities where people are still using and drinking, and they have to stay away from those people in most cases because there's a misalignment in terms of choices and behaviors. And ultimately, they might go down that path again by choosing attachment over healthy choices. And yet there's a bond of understanding within those communities because of their shared experience. So it's this interesting piece. They have to go through this. Well, even though we have this shared bond, I have to step away from these people and find new friends and a new community. So it's like this extra added level. And so it's similar to what you were talking about, but it's a radical act, in my opinion. And you're articulating it so well. And I'm imagining there's many people listening that can relate to that as they're growing and shifting and becoming who they are, or who they were.
And I think here, like, for everyone who is currently on this path and can relate to what we are saying, I can only add, like, it's going to be worth it. Like, that's something I would have wished people would have told me when I was in it. Like, when you don't see the end of the tunnel and it's just like, oh, I'm forever going to be alone. I'm never going to find my tribe, or I'm never going to work through this. Just pushing through and staying authentic to who you are, at the end, it's always going to be worth it.
Yeah. In your bio, you also said that we're not here to cope with life, and that you help others to break through that and to create a different life. So I'm curious about the word coping and what comes up for you around that, because it really hit me. It's like I can relate to times in my life where I was just coping and just getting by, and that's not how we're meant to live.
One of the examples is when I was 15 or 16 and I went through an apprenticeship. I hated my job. Like, no, I didn't hate my job, but I really it was like I had people in as my boss. She made my life really terrible, and I was so much looking forward to the weekends. Like, I was living for Saturdays, and I was already getting sick on Sunday evenings. Like, that was really painful. And I feel like that was a time where I coped with life. And I also told myself to push through, and that I will then, when I'm done with this apprenticeship, will ensure that I will create a life I will be looking forward to every single day and not needing to wish for weekends. And that was a very powerful learning for me, because I do see also still in my environment that a lot of people are coping with life. They feel like they just need to push through. Now, not meaning to push through with things you're actually very passionate about, but just pushing through because that's what people do and that's expected from them.
Mm-hmm.
And I find this really very sad, because the only thing we know is that we have this very moment we live in right now. We don't know what happens tomorrow. We don't know if we've, I believe that we have more than one life, but I stand here in this life now. So at the end, I don't know at the moment. So that's all we got. And we need to, I feel it's our obligation to make the best out of life. And I feel that most people live like they have 1,000 years to live, while it's actually, life is so short. And really understanding that you are the creator, not meaning that you don't need to push through when life gets hard, but understanding that at every given moment, you are deciding of the turns your life is going to take, if it's consciously or subconsciously, and if it's the way you want to take or not. That doesn't matter, because every decision you make, and even if it's just not acting up on something, not taking, the leap of faith or get going or anything, everything you ever do is you always get to decide. And understanding that you are the one who creates your life, and that everything could look very differently in just a year's time from now. Like, you can shift and create a whole different life it doesn't take long. So whatever you wish for, the biggest dreams you have, go after them. Move in that direction. Go. You don't know how much time you have. Go.
It's so simple and profound what you just said. And at the same time, I can identify all the resistance that people have towards that. And it makes me think of a conversation I had very recently, kind of looking back in time about decisions I had made, about jobs I was in. And in some ways, I made a choice to step into less financial abundance, but to have an increase in my passion and joy and fulfillment. And yet, when I recounted this experience, the feedback I got was, well, you were quite successful at that point, which was interesting, because what was unspoken was I was on the edge of a heart attack. I was on the edge of heading down a path of being unwell if I stayed in that career. And yet that was invisible to the person that I was talking to, right? So it's like I knew that I needed to take a different route, but it was a tremendous risk to do it, but it was so worth it in the end. Like I wouldn't change it for anything. But the year after I made that decision, I think I made $12,000, but I was the happiest in that year. I don't even know how I got through that year. It's quite funny. Anyway.
And I think just for people, bringing this closer to them to understand, I think many people lack the actual understanding of that they get to make their own choices. Like I do understand sometimes the older you get, the more responsibilities you have, and it seems to be easy to say, but difficult to do. But we are the creators of our lives, and everybody is. And also coming from the background I had with other kind of traumas when I was a bit younger, like I would still I had my fair share of experiences, and still I find that it doesn't matter what happened to you. It matters what you make out of it now. Like no matter the big pain you've experienced in your life, like you get to decide if it's gonna control you moving forward, or if you're gonna work through it, and if you're gonna start taking ownership of your own like well-being and health, and start to write a different story.
Mm-hmm. And I also feel like, just to bring a different perspective, we're kind of set up to not believe that we're the creators. And it starts right from childhood, because the way that I talk about it is that we have this orientation outside of ourselves. So we need our parents to take care of us. We need them and want them to be a different way than perhaps they are. And that becomes this lifelong outward perspective of, what does the world want me to be? Who do my parents want me to be? What does my boss want me to be? And the whole time, I mean, it makes sense that we would do that because it's a survival mechanism, but we're turning away from our inner authority, our inner knowing, our inner wisdom, our inner guidance, all of those things that are right there waiting to be returned to. And so I think this healing journey, as we call it, is really about a reorientation to the internal, which is, again, that metaphor of the breath, right? Going back inside to reveal those parts of ourselves and connect with ourselves. And I think the breath work you do is conscious connected breathing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There are different forms to it. There is not just the balancing breath or the relaxation breath. There are also like a more energizing one. There's so much you can do with breath work. I just see in the world, and that's why we picked this grounding exercise at the beginning, is everybody strives for enlightenment and for all these special feelings and this extravagance. But what we are missing nowadays more than ever is being regulated, being in balance, being in charge of how we feel, and start to own this again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And over the years, I've gone to breathwork ceremonies a few times. I've done one-on-one breathwork from time to time. And one of the things I found interesting is there's this kind of created perception that you're meant to have some sort of experience, like some sort of release, I guess is the main thing. And some people do. They have very profound releases. And I'm guessing that you have a different way of working with people because of the journey you've been on, and that you hold a space differently. And perhaps you'd like to speak to that.
Breathwork, by definition, is conscious connected breathing. So this brings in a lot of different aspects of how you can go at breathwork. And while I also hold breathwork sessions where you have those big, deep releases, working on being grounded and being able to hold your own space comes first. Because when you are activated, and this can be through all sorts of different experiences, and you don't know how to ground yourself, how to, feel home again in your own vessel, then it's going to be, or could be, a very difficult journey to be at or be in. And really ensuring that you are connected to yourself is the starting point with everything I do. Because if you can connect to yourself, if you know how to regulate yourself, and breathwork is a very powerful tool to do this, because you take it anywhere you go, you take your breath with you, and it doesn't take a lot of time. You can just, by doing this for 2 or 3 minutes, you are getting into a regulated state. And this is where I want to get people to, like in this particular state, before really doing like a lot of work with them, because they need to be able to hold their own space, even if they are walking out of a session afterwards. And that's what we teach. Like before we go into anything else, this is the tools I need them to have, so that they are not depending on me, but depending, or anybody else, but depending on themselves for their own regulation.
Which in and of itself is such a beautiful reflection and gift to be able to give someone. Because again, so much of what we do is the opposite of that. So even just at the beginning, when we stopped and did that few minutes of breathing, we were all receiving and giving ourselves that gift that you just spoke of. But that's the foundation for anything that we do, is what you're saying. I mean, it's kind of opposite to the way some people teach, and I'm not trying to make those people wrong, but it's like, it's very different from what you're saying, and I think that's what's important to highlight.
There's so many different aspects, and it's beautiful that everybody carries their own gifts into the world. And there's just one thing I really want to send people into the world with from this part of our conversation, and it's make your own judgment. Like, believe in yourself, believe in your intuition, that you know what is right for you. If something doesn't feel right, then listen to your inner voice. If it's with a teacher, if it's, like daily things you experience, but really to bring the power more back to ourselves is one thing I see as so crucial, because as you also mentioned it before, we are so programmed with getting everything from the outside world, our recognition, our everything is depending on the outside world, and just getting this power back. Like when you look at advertising, we are and push notifications and all the information we get from outside, we are so steered from our outside world, and just getting the power back into ourselves, listening to our intuition, checking in with ourselves. Because if you give yourself the space and you take the time to listen to yourself, you will know what to do.
And I love that you're working with women in this way, because my observation over the years with working with a lot of women has been that those very things that you're pointing to in terms of the healing and foundational pieces are the things that they didn't get, or the things that they didn't feel they had access to, and saying yes to things that were actually no's, and all that comes after that. And so I love that you're bringing this work to women, because and men need it too, just in a different way, because we've all lost ourselves in some way. But to heal with other women, and just like I do men's groups, it's like there's something really powerful about that. And I love the way that you're presenting yourself to do this work, which is great.
Thank you. Yeah, I think both needed, women and men, as you just said. I think for women, given their nature of being the one who carries out the baby, taking care of the family in like womanly perspectives, I think often makes it more difficult for women to understand that they are the creators of their lives, because they are more in the flow of, how do you say this, to give, or like, and understanding
To
that you can
nurture.
still give, to nurture.
Mhm.
Yes, thank you. To nurture, and understanding that you can still nurture, but you can also be the creator of your life, and that it's not, that it goes hand in hand and not contradicting it like itself, is one thing that I really see a lot of women struggle with. And this is my big wish for the women to learn to really start embodying and living that they are the creators of their lives.
And that feels like the perfect spot to just pause our conversation and just let that sit. Because I think what you said just there is really powerful. And I always like to close with asking my guests the same question. And the question that I want to ask is, what is one simple way that someone could connect with the sacred today?
Carving out a little bit of time for yourself, just really making it a priority to cater to your needs by taking a moment, closing your eyes, checking in with your breath, and just hold yourself in this sacred space of your true self.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And for people who want to stay in touch with you or connect with you and explore what you offer, where's the best place for them to do that?
The website gives a good starting point. I'm sure you will blend it in, or people will find this.
Yes.
Or for the ones who are more mobile, on Instagram is also always a good opportunity to see what's going on this side of the world on a daily basis.
Excellent. And we will put all of your links in the show notes for sure.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dominique. This has been a beautiful conversation. I love where we went, and I loved all the things that you shared. And thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me today.
Ross, thank you so much for holding the space for our conversation and for us to meet. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us on Sacred Sundays. I hope something in today's offering spoke to your spirit, stirred something true, or simply gave you a moment to breathe. If this conversation resonated, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, or share the podcast. It truly helps this work reach the people who are meant to find it. And if you'd like to explore more of my work or connect with me directly, you can visit rosstayler.com, and that is Tayler with ER.com. Until next time, may your day be slow and sacred.